And we are live. Camera's on you, Colin.
Sweet. Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Cult of Copy Show. This is the first one we are filming from my new office digs here. Hopefully all this blazing sunshine is giving us an awesome HD picture with lots of ambiance. We're going to change it up a little bit. I know the last time we left off, we were going to continue with our series on cognitive biases, but we're going to give that a little break for a couple of weeks because this week I have one of my lists of 13 tips that I wrote up for one of my mentoring clients that I thought would make a good episode. So we're going to cover that. And then next week I have a special treat. As some of you who follow my timeline may recall, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Denver for the first ever Mile High Mastermind that my buddy Tim Castleman organized. And while we were there, I had a vegan brunch with Brad Goss, where we talked about licensing a cartoon character he invented. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about it here. It's a very interesting conversation with a very interesting guy. And I'm going to share that next week because I'll be traveling during the showtime, so stick around for that. We're going to talk about his Brushy Bear oral hygiene promotional cartoon character that he created. Although that one's going to be audio only, and we're going to put together some slides for it, and we'll share that episode with you next week. It'll air at the same time that the show normally does. It just won't be live. So I got you covered for 2 weeks, and then if nothing else, more interesting comes up, then we'll continue with our ongoing series on the other stuff. If you're a new watcher / listener of the show, this is the Cult of Copy show. The Cult of Copy is a very large 16,000 member discussion group on Facebook for discussing copywriting for sales, persuasion, marketing, influence, authority, all that neat stuff. You're welcome to join us there if you like. Just look us up on Facebook. This is also 35 episodes now that we've done of this show. So if you just check out our YouTube channel, please do subscribe if you like what you hear. We have plenty more before this episode and plenty more to come after. So without dragging too much further into it, it says my name below, but if you're listening to the audio only version, I'm the Reverend Dr. Sir Colin D. Terrio, founder and leader of the Cult of Copy, but I'm just a nerd on the internet that likes to talk about this kind of stuff. So diving right in, I have 13 factors, angles, tidbits, tips, tricks, tactics, whatever you want to call them, that have to do with how to push a prospect visiting an offer that you have into making the decision to buy right now. Now, it doesn't necessarily compel them to buy, but if they're thinking of buying, it increases the pressure that they experience when they're reading the page. So it pushes them to feel like they have to make a decision. So they won't leave and reconsider. They won't, think they can go check out the competition. We're going to try and do as much as we can to make them decide to go ahead and buy right now while they're on this encounter of your offer. This is one of those things where it's kind of like a grab bag. Not all of these will be appropriate for every offer, but you should use as many of them as you can. And if you just state them in plain language, it won't come across feeling like hype, right? These are all, I guess you would say, when I name them all, you'll sort of recognize them. You'll be able to spot them in offers that you've seen all the time. And they're about, like we said, increasing the pressure, the mental, psychological pressure of having to make a decision and not dawdle. As always, this is a live show. If you happen to be watching it right now, Friday, was it the 19th? At 2 p.m. Yep. Eastern, we are live. So you can interact. Zane, who just popped in there for a second, is our director. He is watching all of the chat avenues that are available to you. So if you have any questions or comments about today's episode and you get them to him via the obvious channels before the end of the show, we'll do some live Q&A. If not, and you listen to it on a recording, new episodes are typically recorded Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to join us live to interact, we can do that. That was enough of a spiel. How long did that take? Like 30 minutes? um,
Like
all right.
6, but close
Yeah,
enough.
not bad, not bad. I need to get it down to like a good 1 minute, like barrel through, or just skip it and read the stuff on the page. It'll probably tell you who I am. Anyway,
I dig it.
all right. So jumping right in, number one, the thing that will make people want to make a decision right now is a deadline. And that seems like a really obvious one, but many people don't put a deadline on their offers. They don't put an expiration date. Basically, if you have a deadline, the reason they can't wait is because the offer completely vanishes after a certain point, right? Like it goes stale. Maybe, you have an actual reason for that deadline, or if you make it arbitrary, just stick to it. Like no one can say that you're faking it if you do actually take the product off the market at a certain date. When you have someone on the hook and the offer expires, they are inclined to want to make a decision right then, or at least before the deadline. Now, if you want to be a real hard ass about it, you can. I've been in situations where a salesman has said this offer is good until you walk out the door. So either you buy it right then, or else you don't get that sale. But that's the simplest one, and that's the one that you'll see most common because it is the simplest one to do. But again, I want to stress, if it's an arbitrary thing, if you're deciding to apply that pressure and there's no good outside explanation of why, then you really, really need to stick to it and do the prices when you say the deadline is. I myself am not great at this. A lot of times I'll say, I'm going to have this sale until tomorrow. And then it lasts all weekend because I'm lazy and I forgot about it. Don't do that because people lose respect for you. Um, Number two is limited spots. So if this is for some kind of event or a live situation, or even if you just arbitrarily decide you're only going to sell a certain number of them, this is a way that you can apply pressure to get people to buy, right? Because they feel like if I don't decide right now and it fills up, I won't be able to get in, right? And this works particularly well for, like we said, live events or things that are very, very elite and expensive, right? So if it's something that's very high priced, it makes people feel special if only a few people can get it, and they are going to feel really um, hungry to be one of the few people who get the benefit if you play your cards right. So limited spots is number two. Number three is the impending price increase, right? So we talked before about a deadline. A deadline specifically is if you just want the offer to go away altogether, as in after a certain date you can't buy this. But when you do a price increase, what you're saying is that after a certain amount of time you will still be able to buy this, but the price is going to go up. The previous one, when I talked about limited spots working well with something that's very expensive, if you're going to do the price raise thing, it should be something that's sort of mid-tier pricing, because you don't want to have a really expensive like limited seat coaching thing and say, well, after this deadline it's going to go from 10 grand to 20 grand, because that doesn't feel authentic. But if you say, here's a live training event and it costs $100 right now, but after we record it, and you can still buy the recordings later, but they're going to be $200, that's much more reasonable and within range, and that feels more believable. You don't want to push that one too hard, but for someone who's budget conscious and is dedicated to whatever it is that your product is going to help them do, showing them that they're going to save money by acting now is a good way to get them to get off the fence. Let's see. Number four is what I call the bonus redaction. Now, if you've ever seen my sales letter template, or if I've ever consulted with you about your offer, I always want people to throw in a bonus of some kind. Now, when you go to the store and you buy things, you're buying only the thing that you want. Very rarely do manufacturers package up, 20% more free or that kind of thing, right? You rarely get an additional free gift of some kind thrown into the deal if you just shop retail. But when you sell things online, it makes people feel special to go through this, more personal avenue of buying things. If you're throwing in some kind of component as a bonus that makes people feel like the offer is above and beyond just I want to buy this one item by itself, right? So when you have a bonus, it sweetens the deal, but it's very easy to create pressure for people to decide to buy now. If you tell them about this great bonus that augments and amplifies everything you're going to get out of the main product, but you tell them if you don't buy it right now, you're not going to get that bonus. There's a deadline on the bonus being included. So once you sweeten the deal and you threaten to take it away, that makes them want to have to act right now, especially if they feel like the product is amazing with the bonus and they no longer consider them as being separate items, to where if they just bought the item by itself, now they feel like it's not as good without the bonus. So that's a pretty easy one to do. And that one actually works at all price ranges because you're not talking about a fluctuating price. So even something super expensive like a high ticket coaching item, if you tell them it comes with this bonus of like, some pre-recorded products or whatever, but if you don't get it within this time frame, I'm going to take that bonus away and you don't get that anymore, right? Number 5 is the early bird special. Now, this works really well if you have a subscriber list of loyal customers who buy stuff from you pretty frequently. Also, if you have a sort of drawn out launch process where you're releasing free content to warm up the market before you release your product, you'll build up an interest list off the free content who's sitting there waiting for you to drop the official product on the launch date. Well, what you can do to drive really early sales is before you actually officially open the offer, you let only insiders take the deal, right? So you can do this with a slightly special price, or just the fact that you're letting them buy it before the general public is allowed to, especially if you couple it with something like limited spots. So you're letting them buy advanced special tickets before you even open it up to the public. And that's a way to drive sales. If you have a very large audience for your products, it makes them feel really special. Actually, it's kind of funny and counterintuitive, but if you can sell out whatever it is that you're selling using only the early birds, that makes early bird offers more effective the next time you do one in the future, because people know it's not even going to make it to being offered to the public before it sells out only to loyal customers. So that's something you can think of as a long-term ploy, constantly rewarding the people who are already insiders, who have already bought from you, giving them the opportunity to either buy early or buy early with a little bit of a discount. But don't think you need to give them a discount. Just the fact that you're letting them buy early is enough of an incentive to make them feel special, like they want to get in on that deal. Number 6 is when you have a time window on the results. So right now we're heading into the month of March, and tax filing is due on April 15th here in the United States. So you'll see a lot of tax companies and tax software using that deadline, which isn't their deadline, it's an external deadline that you have to get your shit done or else, right? So that there's an outside pressure pushing them to have to do something by a certain date, and you can use that, and you don't look like the bad guy for putting that pressure on them. Instead, you look like the good guy who's come to rescue them by taking that time window and helping them take care of it within that time frame quickly, easily, stress-free, because it's a looming deadline that they have to deal with. And this will work in any situation, really, where you have an external pressure. So it could be, some kind of governmental deadline, like taxes, like we talked about. It could be, really anything that you can pick arbitrarily. I've done sales before where it's like this sale is only good until I finish my flight to my destination. Like if I have an unexpected layover or my flight gets delayed, I've done sales where it's like, you can buy this at a discounted price as long as I'm stuck in this airport. That's an external deadline. There's nothing they can do about when I come and go, but it makes them want to have to act now because there's a time window for them to get the result that they want to get. Um, it's similar to a deadline, but it's I want to stress that it's not something arbitrary. You're putting it on something outside of you, outside of your business concern, outside of anything either you or the customer can control. So like to give you a fitness example, if you have some sort of boot camp to get people fit and melt the fat at this time of year right now, for example, so we're just coming out of winter, springtime's around the corner. If you're like, you need to get this plan so you can get in, bikini shape before it warms up enough to go lounge by the pool. That would be another example of an external window on results that you're using as a sort of deadline to get them to act. Again, we're almost halfway through. So if you have any questions or comments, anything you want to add, you can either leave it in the YouTube chat window or in the Facebook post where we just posted about this in the cult group. And Zane is keeping an eye on it, so feel free to butt in and ask.
Yep. The time is now, folks. I'm watching. There's nothing here, but I'm seeing a lot of actionable steps here. And it inspired me to go and share it. So if you're getting a lot of value out of this, go and share this on your Twitter or your Facebooks or whatever you got.
Yeah,
that's my plug there.
That's why Zane's the director, because I don't think of shit like that. Yeah, go share it, man. It's happening right now. There's the deadline. All right, moving on. I'll take a little beverage break. It's cold season, and I've been hanging out with Jeremiah all day, and he's sick. There's Jeremiah. Let's see, where were we? Number 7 is what they call dime sale style pricing. And like I said, where if you put a deadline for the price increasing at a certain time, what a dime sale is with every time someone purchases, the price of the product goes up by some increment, usually a dime, hence the title. But it doesn't have to be a dime. It can be anything. But the idea is that every time someone buys it, the price is going to go up by a certain amount. So that no matter when you're buying, right now is a better time to buy than any other time. Because if once one more person buys it besides you, you're going to end up paying more. I tend to think that this sort of action only really works for very, very cheap products up to a certain ceiling. Because eventually, if the price keeps climbing relative to the product, you're going to hit a point where the starting point for sales and the ending point where it's at now are going to be so far apart that it's going to make a potential buyer pissed off that they missed on that deal early on. And it's going to make them so mad they don't even want it at all. So if you started at something and it was $1 and I'm buying it right now and it's $20, that's going to irritate me because I'm thinking, well, he was giving it away for $1. There's no way it's worth the 20 that I'm being asked to pay now. So you want to keep an eye on it. You want the spread of how high the price can go to be relatively narrow, because again, it's not like an auction where you're bidding on a unique item that there's only one of, right? If it's an item where anybody can buy as many copies as possible and the price just keeps going up and up and up, the value proposition isn't changing to match that price. So if it gets too out of control, you can lose out, right? So keep that.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what would you think of if it was intentionally angled at like random price bumps? Like, it'll be it's a dime, but then it can be a quarter. That could be $1. Like, you never know how much it's going to go up. You got to jump in now. Like, would that be like more irritating?
Well, if the window goes wide enough for that kind of thing, then yes, because what really concerns people is when they feel like they're getting ripped off and paying more than what it's worth, because they have no idea what it's actually worth without having seen it. They only know how little you were letting it go for before. So you got to be concerned about anchoring. So for example, I'll pay $200 for desktop software that's professional level, without blinking because I know it's professional level software. But at the same time, I use my iPad 99% of the time in my business. And if an app costs more than $1, I'm not buying it. I'm like, fuck you. That's too much. What do you
Right.
think?
Okay.
What do you think
Makes
is
sense.
going? Like it's just based on context. Even though I would literally pay 10 times as much for the same piece of software on the desktop. I mean, I have $200 video editing software on the desktop, and I was pissed off to pay $5 for iMovie on the iPad, even though it does all the same stuff on the device that I literally use every day. Like convenience or, usage didn't even enter my mind. I was irritated because I'm only used to paying either nothing or $1 at most because that's what that marketplace expects.
All right.
So
Cool.
you
Thanks.
got to you got to keep that in mind, and then the climbing works especially when you put it in tandem with a time-based deadline or a ceiling on price. So if you say I'm going to let people buy this starting at $1 and it's going to climb to $10, but as soon as it hits $10, it's going to be done within 24 hours and the sale is over. So then people feel like it's already within that range, and the fact that you were offering it for $1 and it goes up to 10, it's pretty easy to make something seem like it was worth $10 and that you were letting it go away for $1 as part of a promotion, right? It's when it seems completely unbelievable. You can't have a dime sale for like a month and let it climb from $1 to like $300. It's just not. It would be weird. People will stop buying it when it hits a certain price
Right.
point.
But if you've got that ceiling, it's like, hey, it's not going to go above this. Then how it gets there is it can be totally your choice.
Yes, and
All
when
right.
you have a price ceiling, the offer needs to expire very quickly after it hits that ceiling, because then people are, like, the action on it quits climbing after 10, and if they know the price won't climb any higher, you've just given them a reason to dawdle because now there's no penalty for waiting. So you need to give them an additional reason to buy it at full price if you put the ceiling on it. So that's why I recommend putting a time-based deadline after it hits the ceiling.
Oh, okay. Now that really buttons it up right there at the end. Cool. Thanks.
No worries. Okay, so number 8 is the one-time offer on exit. Now, this doesn't really show unless they try to walk away from the deal. But if they try to leave, you can do what's called like an exit pop-up or an interrupt. There's all kinds of software that does this kind of thing. But basically, if they try to hit back or browse away to a different page, you interrupt them with a pop-up that stops their browser from leaving that page. And you say, wait a minute, what about if we do this, right? And you make a one-time offer that will expire if they leave the page. But if they say yes, they get something special. I recommend, if you're going to do this, don't change the price, throw in an extra bonus, because that makes them feel like you're sweetening the deal without devaluing the original offer. Lots of people claim good results if you offer an immediate discount on an exit, and I can see why that would work. But if your goal is to build up a business with return customers and you want to really build up trust, you don't want to immediately come down on the price if they try and say no to the offer, because that gives people the impression you are overcharging in the first place. And if you do that multiple times with the same customer, they have absolutely no respect for your initial pricing because they think it's just bullshit, that you're just making it up and you're totally willing to come down immediately. So they expect it to happen. They expect that your first price is inflated if you immediately always come down on the price. So that's something you can use, but keep in mind that's going to be best for like cold traffic loss leader kind of offers where you're not really concerned with building up trust in your brand. You just want to maximize sales. But if you do want to build up trust in your brand and escalate those people into more and more expensive offers, the right way to do the exit deal to put pressure on them is to do a one-time offer where you're throwing in additional value for the same price. So that way they know the price is valid, but you're willing to sweeten the deal and throw in something extra where you're taking the hit in order to let them get what it is that they really want. So that's my big warning on that one. But that one works really well. And like I said, the warning only applies if you're trying to build up a brand long term. If it's really just an offer where you're trying to get as many people to buy on this one deal and you don't care what happens to them after, if they ever come back or even remember your name, then yeah, say, look, if you won't pay $10 for this, how about 9? Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to damage your reputation, because at that point they will take the deal. They just won't think highly of you, but it doesn't matter if you don't care. So that's one to keep in mind, especially if you do client work, because you will find clients that do that kind of thing where they don't really build up a brand. They just do lots and lots of one-off offers. Then we have what's called the pre-earned offer. So if you can frame whatever your offer is in terms that the prospect has done something already that has given them the opportunity to take advantage of the special offer, it makes them feel like they're missing out if they don't take it, right? So if I say, hey, look, as a valued customer who bought product A earlier this month, I wanted to extend to you a special deal on product B, just because you were a loyal buyer and the two products complement each other. So it feels special and exclusive to them, but it's something they feel like if they don't take advantage of buying it within this window, if they decide they want product B later on, they'll have to buy it at full price. The offer only stands because they bought product A within the past 30 days. As one example, you can use all kinds of qualifiers. But the idea there is they feel a sense of potential loss of a special status that they've already earned. If they do nothing, they just go back to being a normal schlub. But if they act now, they get to take advantage of a special status that they've already done what it takes to be part of. Does that make sense? I think it does. Yeah, so it's a way to make them feel special. And again, this works exceedingly well if you have the kind of business where you're trying to develop a repeat clientele of people who buy things from you over and over, because you're rewarding them for their buyer behavior and you're making it worth their while to continue to buy every time you make an offer, because they know they're getting special treatment when they do. Number 10 is rarity. And this is something I point out a lot when I teach people how to write sales letters. A lot of people use the term scarcity and urgency like interchangeably when they talk about offers, but really they're different, right? Urgency is a limitation of time, meaning that you need to act now because time is running out in some way or other. Scarcity is when there's not enough of whatever you're offering to go around so that it will run out. So scarcity has an urgency element to it because you don't know when they're going to run out, but scarcity has to do with quantity and urgency has to do with the amount of time available to buy. Now, the third major factor is this one, rarity. And rarity has to do with the fact that whatever you're offering isn't available anywhere else. It's not just that you have a few of them and once you run out, you run out. It's the fact that they can't buy what you sell from anyone else because you're the exclusive provider of it, right? So once you have that context where you are in total control of that product identity, that they can't buy your thing from the next guy if you run out. Once you're in control of that context, you can literally say, I will never sell this again. No one will ever be able to buy it. And that's what makes it super rare. And that has the added benefit, if you're capable of doing it, you create the content or whatever it is that they're going to buy and you make it super rare on purpose and then never offer it again. And that drives up the perceived value of the price. So if it's a particular kind of training, that's something you can charge a lot for if you're never, ever going to offer it again. But you see this a lot in collector markets where they create artificial rarity. So like for these collector card games or even like Beanie Babies or any kind of like Legos. I'm nuts for Legos, as you may know if you pay attention to the show. Lego's great about creating a special set and building up a lot of hype and within 2 months it's sold out on their website, and you can only buy it in retailers if you can happen to find it. And then the prices start climbing in the aftermarket for people who bought it in the box and waited out until Lego stopped selling it. That's rarity, right? There's only so much opportunity to get a hold of that item, and only Lego makes it. So, it's not like you can buy the knockoff version of that set, to give you an example. So there's no such thing as, oh, I'm going to wait till later, I'm going to get it next time. I can buy this at any time. There's none of that. If your product has actual rarity, there's no more opportunity. Once it's gone for good. Number 11. How are we doing on time, by the way? I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, we're about 2 minutes over.
Oh, sweet. We went over.
Yeah.
Wow. Long episode. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to fill the time.
Oh no, and I think you've also got the audience entranced. I know I'm just sitting here like, what's the next one,
Sweet.
Colin?
Well, listen, we got 3 more. So think of a question, because when I get to the end and there's no questions, the show's over. I'm not going to wait for you to type that shit. So to give you a sense of urgency, think of your question now and type it in. Because if it's not there at the end of the show, we're done.
Yep. Get it in there under the wire. We'll ignore you forever after.
Right.
Also, if you can't think of a question, just let us know in the comments. Let us know if you've enjoyed the show, or even click the little thumbs up button, because that helps us too.
Yeah. Our usual shows have been sort of a deep dive into one subject at a time. If you like this format, where we're just kind of hitting a bullet list of useful things, let me know, because I have a bunch of these laying around I could repurpose into show content. Number 11 is what we call drag time, meaning the longer. So if you're positioning your product as a solution to a problem, if the problem is the kind of thing where the longer the prospect waits to get started working on that problem, the worse off they'll get, or the farther behind they'll fall. If the gap between them and their result keeps widening the longer they wait, you can take advantage of that. So it's the same kind of thing like we talked about, that fitness thing, where like you have the external deadline of the weather's warming up and you're running out of time to get that bikini body. You can think of it as the reverse, to where if you don't change your eating habits, you're going to get fatter and fatter. So that would be an example of using drag time to make the offer seem more urgent, because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. For health factors, that's obviously very simple to say, it's going to get worse and worse. For certain business scenarios, like way back when I used to do web design stuff, that was a big angle for pitching business owners, is that if you don't get your website together right now, you're going to fall behind, because your competitor down the street is going to have their website, and pretty soon they'll have all your customers, even for stupid reasons like they can check that guy's hours on their phone, and they can't check yours unless they show up. So drag time is something people who are sort of, they have a pressing problem, but they've been putting it off, and their urge is to continue to put it off because there hasn't been very strong consequences. Drag time is something you can use to push that particular type of customer, because now you're making it so that they're not just putting it off, but the longer they put it off, it's getting worse and worse and worse and escalating. That actually feeds into number 12. The next one is compounding the problem, which is when the problem gets worse and worse if they don't address it. So drag time doesn't necessarily have to mean the problem gets worse. It just means the results get farther and farther away. So to understand the difference, drag time can mean, if you don't do this on time, you'll have to wait a whole other year to do this again. That's drag time, where the result gets farther away in time. But compounding problems are specifically, if you don't deal with this now, the problem's going to exacerbate exponentially. It's going to hurt more and more. You're going to be more and more debilitated. You're going to get left farther and farther behind, no matter what you do, if you don't address this now. A good way to put this on people, a lot of times I deal with people, they don't like to do that kind of fear-based marketing because they feel like it makes them look bad. I don't think that's the case, but if you want to do a softer way to do this, you can use the compounding problem, but you're not the one making it worse. You're trying to help them out and show, okay, well, this is just going to get worse and worse if you don't deal with it. That's why I'm offering you this opportunity now to get in front of it and handle it now so that it's not something that's going to continue to get worse and worse. It Using that angle makes it feel like you're just looking out for them. It makes them feel like you're altruistic, you're concerned with their outcome because you're not just trying to sell them the product, you're concerned with the escalation of their problem too. You can cleverly use the compounding problem and connect it to the which is it the one-time offer on exit, because then you can say, look, this problem is going to get worse and worse as you go along if you don't deal with it. And I understand that you have some hesitation, so let me go ahead and make you a special deal right now because I want you to get in front of this problem. I'm going to throw in this bonus if you take the offer now. But if you walk away, you won't get the bonus, the price is going to go up, and your problem will continue to get worse and worse, right? And it's especially good because when you have a compounding problem and you can express it to the audience, it feels high pressure, but it completely doesn't come from you. You're just agitating a problem they already have, and then you're adding in the guilt of them ignoring it, and you're adding in the worry of it continuing to compound. And those are all, again, external pressures. They don't feel like they're coming from you, so you don't seem like a pushy salesperson. You're just painting the grim picture of reality if they don't take you up on your sweet ass offer that's on the table right now. So that's number 12, compounding problem. Number 13, the final one, is avoiding future regret. So of all the ones that we've talked about, all of these will set you up to where if you don't buy right now, I've given you 12 other psychological reasons that you can say you're going to feel bad having passed up on this offer. It's going to go away forever and you're never going to get this solution. Your problem's going to get worse. The price is going to go up. The bonus is going to go away. Tons of different individual reasons you can give to people for that they're going to be kicking themselves for not taking you up on this deal, for not accepting this gracious and generous offer you've put in front of them. And for a lot of people, avoiding any kind of regret, or even better, if you can frame it in some kind of way where the prospect maybe pictures themselves as a particular kind of person, if they think that they're a wise investor or a cutting edge business person, this idea of loss of status that they're going to get because they didn't take you up on their offer, that's a big thing that they're going to regret. If it's in some kind of way going to compromise their self-image, then use that. Because if you say, look, you say you care about your health and fitness goals and you're going to pass this by in a month when you're stuffing your face with pizza, crying into your beer about how you're still a tubby fat ass. I don't do that, by the way. I totally enjoy my pizza and beer. I will not cry about it. You can save them that future humiliation and that future self-loathing just by buying this offer, right? And what's great about that one, avoiding this future regret, number 13, you can literally use that in combination with any of the others, and even the ones that I might not have thought to put on the list. You can tag that on anytime you have any kind of limiting factor, urgency, scarcity, rarity of any kind. You've introduced the idea that they will lose something if they don't buy right now. And that's an instant trigger for regret that you can tap into. So no matter which of these you use, even if you only use one or if you use a different one, anything that you put that has teeth in it that's going to hurt them if they don't take the offer right now, always, when you're doing at least one of your closes at the end, remind them of that feeling of regret that they have potential for by passing up on your offer, because no one likes future regret. It's one of those weird emotions where imagining future regret is identical to your brain as having actual regret. So just the imagining the sensation makes people want to avoid it. So that very powerful one. That's why I saved it for the end, because it works with literally every other one on the list.
All
And
right.
with that, we have 13 points. We got any questions before we close it up?
We do, and I think we actually have a very good one that is a perfect timing for the end of the episode here. So, from CS Back 01 says, "Hey Colin, any advice in implementing these tactics when selling one's service to a potential client?"
Yeah, actually, and it's funny. Even though you can't see him, Jeremiah over here is actually really good at that. They asked about how can you apply these when you're selling service to a client. And some of the tricks that I've learned from Jeremiah, who you probably couldn't hear if he talked because I'm on a headset here. He does several tactics, like if you don't, like, he'll give you the proposal and you get a discount if you sign the proposal before a certain date. So if you agree to it early and just go ahead and pay and lock in the work, you'll save some money. If you dawdle and twiddle your thumbs too long, you can still get the same proposal, but it'll cost more. So there's a discount for buying now. That's one.
I really like that one.
That's one way to apply it.
Maybe we can get Jeremiah on a hangout. You can interview him.
Yeah, he was just feeling sick. I asked him; he didn't want to be on camera.
Well, like,
today.
not like
yeah,
right now, but like
no.
episode.
There he is. He's gonna come say hi.
Hey.
But yeah, he lives near me, and yeah, we'll get him on a guest show. We'll see how the guest episode. I've never done a guest episode of the show, so next week we'll have that interview I did with Brad Goss, and if people like that one, we'll do more interviews. You know me, I'm a spotlight hog, and I like to talk, so I don't usually have guests. But another tip that I learned from Jeremiah is that if you're in an industry that supports it, you can actually charge for proposals, which can make you stand out from your competitors because they all want to do a free proposal. But the way he sort of angles it is, you're going to pay us for a proposal because I'm going to put my top engineers on it, and they're going to spend a few hours putting together a custom proposal. And I don't want you to just take our proposal and go give it to the cheaper guy. I want to get at least paid for putting together this custom proposal for you. And then what happens is, if they accept the proposal, the amount they paid for the proposal is deducted off of the service on the other side. So it includes even some sunk cost fallacy, because they've already given you a little bit of money, and if your proposal's great, it's worth it for them to come out of the other side of it and just go ahead and pay you to implement it. Service wise, you can always, if it's the kind of thing where you're going to do ongoing service, you can get them to pay without any kind of retainer or long-term agreement at a higher rate. But if they go ahead and agree to like a long-term contract, you can give them a discount on continuing service. So for example, if you want to go month by month on this service, it's $200 a month. But if you go ahead and lock it into a year-long contract and we get you on an auto bill, we can get it down to $150 a month. And then that way, as the business owner, it lets you plan more long-term because you know what's expected. And then you can always have a clause in there about, if you terminate early, you just owe the remainder of the contract all as one payment. And that'll usually get people locked in. I'm sure if I had all day to think about it, we could come up with more. If you're a member of the Cult of Copy group, that's a great question to post there. I'm sure you'll get more insight. But yeah, plenty of these can be applied to any kind of offer. So what I just talked about were basically ways to leverage deadlines, because you're saying if you pay this proposal before a certain deadline, you get a discount. So that's a hard deadline. That's also a price increase. If your kind of business supports it, you could also do the limited spots thing, to where you're like, this is a service that we don't offer to everyone. We can only accept a certain number of clients for this service. And if they lock into a long-term contract, that means I'm just not available to offer it at all anymore, ever. And that's sort of how I do my mentoring. I only accept 5 new people in per quarter, and it's for a year-long program. So in any given quarter, I'm going to lose about 5 people. So I try to add 5 more people in because I can only serve about 20 people altogether at any given time. So once it's full, and it's service based. You get personal time from me each month, but that's how I lock people in, is because it's limited. I'm only offering it to a certain number of people. I also have I use pretty much all of these in that offer. But hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for asking. And like I said, if you want more feedback on that, that's a great question to put to the group, because there are a lot of service providers in the cult of copy.
Yep, they just said they already said awesome, thanks, Colin. So about halfway through, they were like, yeah, cool,
Sweet.
right? Yeah.
So they said thanks, Jeremiah, for those tips I stole from you.
So with that in mind, we want to do wrap up and the preview for the next episode.
Yeah, let's do that. So that's it for this week. Like I said, if you liked, excuse me, if you liked the format of this episode where we did this little hit list of tactics, let us know in the group. Feel free to suggest a topic for these kind of hit lists. I have plenty in mind that relate to copywriting based on things I've already done, but I'm happy to put some things together based on audience requests. Our episode next week, as I mentioned, I will be traveling on Friday, so we won't do a live episode, but I recorded a roughly 30-minute interview with Brad Goss, and we talk about Brushy Bear, which is a teddy bear cartoon character who helps kids learn to brush their teeth. And if you know Brad, he's got a background in the porn industry, the online porn industry. And he wrote a book called The Chronic Marketer about how he likes to smoke pot all the time as a businessman. So he's countercultural, to say the least. But he invented a kid's cartoon character because he's got a cartooning clip art sort of stock art business, right? So he's got cartoonists on staff, and without giving away too much in the interview, he basically wanted to come up with a way to use these cartoonists to create valuable intellectual property. So he created a cartoon bear who helps kids brush their teeth. And with just a couple of months of creating this character and putting it out there in social media, he's already got major dental hygiene product manufacturers giving him license deals where he puts their products in his videos about how you need to brush your tongue because it smells like ass. It could not be more entertaining, and I hope you got I literally went to Denver almost entirely just to talk to Brad about Brushy Bear, and he was gracious enough to record a little half-hour brunch interview. You can hear people eating their vegan entrees in the background, but it's good audio. It's a nice casual thing, and again, if you guys like that, we'll do more of those. It's very similar for people who've been long-term cult fans. If you remember, a couple of years ago, I did a little lunch interview with Jerry West, and this was very similar. So if people like it, I'll continue to do that, where I'll go on location, and me and someone special will eat some food or drink some beers, and we'll record a little chit-chat behind the scenes. I kind of like having the interview recorded off-site because it kind of takes the pressure off of people. They don't feel like everyone's staring at them waiting for an answer. We can sort of edit it together.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
And the interviewee forgets that they're being interviewed because it's just me and them. There's no camera, where I just have the iPad on the table recording. So we just have a casual conversation. But
I got to write that down.
But we'll see how it works, and that's what we got coming up next week. And then the following week after that, we should be back here in the new and improved Nerd Cave for another live episode. But I don't know what that's going to be, so I'll let you know when I do.
All right, cool. So we've got one other, it's not a question, but just people are saying, thank you, this is awesome. But a shout out to a channel that I created. This is one of the managers that I invited. Rank Your Shit, the YouTube channel, says, great stuff, Colin, thanks.
Awesome.
Well, I wanted to make a channel that I could, person. You rank your shit, man. So anyway,
Perfect.
there
Perfect.
you go.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next week. Like I said, this is the 35th episode. There's plenty more in the YouTube channel, youtube.com/cult of copy. We have a website at cultofcopy.com that I will get around to updating more regularly one of these days, I promise. But you can also look up the Cult of Copy group on Facebook and request to join. We have over 16,000 members now, and it grows month by month. So we would be happy to have you if you like what our whole jam is. And if you're already a member there, tune in every week for new episodes of the show. When we record live, you're more than welcome to show up and participate. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Adios.